The avoidant will watch you walk away without fighting for you. And the lack of fight isn't because you don't matter. It's because fighting for you would require everything their psychology is designed to avoid. Fighting for someone means admitting openly that you need them, that losing them would devastate you, that you're willing to be vulnerable and risk rejection to keep them in your life. Fighting means dropping defenses, showing desperation, making your attachment visible and undeniable. For the avoidant, these requirements feel impossible. So even when they're internally panicking about losing you, even when they're desperate for you to stay, even when they love you more than they've loved anyone, they stand frozen while you leave. They don't fight because fighting would mean exposing the depth of their feelings, and exposure feels more dangerous than loss. Their psychology chooses the certainty of losing you over the vulnerability of fighting for you. This non-fighting isn't indifference. The avoidant is experiencing profound internal turmoil as you walk away. They're screaming inside while appearing calm outside. They're devastated while looking unbothered. They're composing speeches in their mind about why you should stay while saying nothing out loud. The gap between their internal experience and external behavior is massive, and understanding this gap is crucial to understanding why the avoidant doesn't fight and what actually might reach them when direct confrontation fails. The avoidance psychology is organized around avoiding vulnerability at all costs, and fighting for someone is perhaps the most vulnerable position a person can take in a relationship. It's admitting powerlessness, admitting need, admitting that someone else has become essential to your well-being. The avoidant would rather lose you than admit any of this. What reaches the avoidant isn't dramatic confrontation, passionate pleas, or ultimatums demanding they fight for the relationship. All of these approaches trigger their defenses more intensely because they create pressure the avoidant experiences as threat. Instead, what penetrates their defenses is something called soft contact. Gentle, non-demanding communication that leaves space for them to process without feeling cornered. Soft contact acknowledges the avoidant's fear without catering to it, expresses your reality without making them responsible for it, creates opening without pressure. It's the only approach that has any chance of reaching an avoidant who won't fight for you, because it's the only approach that doesn't activate the exact fears that prevent them from fighting in the first place. The psychology behind not fighting. The avoidant doesn't fight for you because fighting would require them to admit how much you matter, and admitting how much you matter feels like handing you a weapon they're certain you'll use to hurt them. The avoidant's core wound is abandonment, rejection, or engulfment from early caregivers. They learned young that showing need leads to pain. Maybe their needs were met with rejection or inconsistency or punishment. Maybe showing vulnerability resulted in being hurt or mocked or abandoned. Whatever the specific wound, the lesson was clear. Needing people is dangerous, and showing that need makes you powerless. So the avoidant developed a defensive strategy of never showing need, never admitting attachment, never revealing how much anyone matters. This strategy has protected them for years, and fighting for you would require abandoning it entirely. Fighting also means admitting they were wrong about not needing anyone. The avoidant has built their entire identity on being independent, self-sufficient, able to be fine alone. Fighting for you would be a public admission that this identity is false, that they do need someone, that they're just as vulnerable to attachment as everyone they've judged for being needy. The identity crisis this would create feels unbearable. The avoidant would rather maintain their illusion of independence and lose you than fight for you, and have to reconstruct their entire sense of self around the reality that they're capable of deep need and attachment. The avoidant also doesn't fight because fighting means risking overt rejection. As long as they don't fight, they can tell themselves they don't know for certain that you'd reject them. They can maintain ambiguity about whether fighting would have made a difference. But if they fight for you and you still leave, the rejection becomes undeniable and complete. There's no room for self-protective narratives. They tried and you still chose to go. That definitive rejection feels more devastating than the ambiguous loss of not fighting at all. The avoidant chooses the pain of losing you without fighting over the pain of fighting for you and still losing, because the latter pain comes with the additional wound of confirmed rejection. The avoidance freeze response is also neurological. When faced with the threat of losing you, their nervous system goes into freeze mode rather than fight mode. Their attachment trauma is so deep that the prospect of fighting for you activates primitive survival responses: fight, flight, Freeze. The avoidant typically operates in flight mode, creating distance when relationships feel threatening. But when you're leaving, flight isn't an option. They can't run from someone who's already going, and fight is so foreign to their relational patterns that it's not accessible. So they freeze. They shut down, they become paralyzed while watching you leave, unable to access the part of themselves that could fight for you even if some part of them desperately wants to. Why traditional approaches fail with avoidance. When you confront the avoidant directly, when you demand they fight for you, when you issue ultimatums or create high-pressure conversations about the relationship, you trigger every defense mechanism they have. The pressure activates their fear response. The demand makes them feel cornered. The ultimatum feels like manipulation or control. Their nervous system interprets your intensity as danger, and they respond the only way they know how: by shutting down more completely, by becoming colder, by retreating further into their defenses. Your attempt to make them fight for you achieves the opposite effect. It makes them less able to fight because they're too busy protecting themselves from what feels like an attack. Traditional approaches also fail because they require the avoidant to process and respond in real time, and the avoidant needs space and time to process their emotions. When you're standing there demanding they tell you how they feel, demanding they show you they care, demanding they fight for the relationship right now, you're asking them to do something their psychology simply cannot do under pressure. The avoidant needs time alone to sort through their feelings, to understand what they're experiencing, to figure out what they want to say. Demanding immediate response guarantees they'll say nothing or say something defensive that doesn't reflect their true feelings. The pressure destroys any possibility of authentic communication. Dramatic declarations also backfire with avoidance because drama triggers their defenses. When you're crying, when you're expressing intense emotion, when you're being vulnerable in big ways, the avoidance instinct is to shut down emotionally, to protect themselves from being overwhelmed by your feelings. They can't hold space for intense emotion, theirs or yours. So your vulnerability, your tears, your passionate expression of how much you need them to fight for you, all of it makes them less able to access their own feelings because they're too busy trying not to be swallowed by yours. The more emotion you show, the less emotion they can access. Ultimatums specifically are kryptonite to avoidance. Fight for me or I'm gone feels like a threat, and threats activate defiance. The avoidance response to being backed into a corner is often to choose the least vulnerable option, which is letting you go. The ultimatum makes them feel controlled and manipulated, which triggers their need for autonomy. So even if they desperately want you to stay, the ultimatum makes it impossible for them to fight because fighting would mean submitting to control, and the avoidant would rather lose you than submit. The ultimatum guarantees the opposite of what you want because it transforms a relationship question into a power struggle. The avoidant feels compelled to win by choosing autonomy over connection, what soft contact is and isn't. Soft contact is communication that acknowledges reality without creating pressure, expresses your truth without demanding response, leaves space for the avoidant to process without abandoning yourself. It's not begging or pleading. It's not pretending you're okay when you're not. It's not giving ultimatums or making demands. It's not performing indifference or playing games. Soft contact is honest communication delivered in a way that doesn't activate the avoidance defenses, creating an opening for connection without forcing it, making space for them to show up without requiring that they show up. Soft contact acknowledges the avoidance patterns without catering to them. It might sound like, I understand that closeness feels overwhelming for you, and I'm not asking you to be someone you're not. But I also need to be honest that I can't continue in a relationship where I'm the only one trying. I care about you deeply, and I'm going to give you space to figure out what you want. If you decide you want to work on this together, I'm open to that conversation. If not, I'll understand and move forward. This communication names the reality without blame, expresses your needs without demand, offers space without abandoning your standards. It doesn't force the avoidant to fight for you in the moment, but it creates conditions where fighting for you becomes possible. Soft contact isn't passivity or acceptance of poor treatment. It's not staying indefinitely while the avoidant does nothing. It's not sacrificing your needs or pretending the relationship is acceptable when it's not. Soft contact is you being clear about your reality and your limits, while not cornering the avoidant into an immediate response that they're incapable of giving. It's strategic communication that works with the avoidance psychology rather than against it. You're not fighting for them, you're not making yourself small, you're simply communicating in a way that has a chance of actually landing with them rather than bouncing off their defenses. Soft contact also means sometimes communicating and then genuinely stepping back. It's not checking in constantly, it's not staying in limbo forever. It's saying what's true, offering an opening, and then actually giving space. The space is crucial because it's only in space that the avoidant can feel their feelings about losing you. When you're constantly present, constantly trying, constantly pursuing, the avoidant doesn't have to confront what losing you would actually mean. But when you step back after soft contact, when you genuinely create distance, the avoidant is forced to sit with the potential reality of your absence. And it's often only in that sitting that they can access the motivation to fight for you, if they're capable of fighting at all. How to implement soft contact. Implementing soft contact starts with getting clear within yourself about what's true and what you need, independent of the avoidance response. You have to know your own reality before you can communicate it without pressure. Are you done with the relationship? Are you willing to try if they show up differently? Are you at your limit but still have hope? Get clear about your truth and communicate from that truth rather than from a place of trying to manipulate a particular response. The avoidant will sense if you're being honest versus if you're using soft contact as strategy to control them, and their defenses will activate if they sense manipulation. The first soft contact communication should be clear, calm, and brief. You're not explaining everything you've ever felt or listing every way they've hurt you. You're simply stating reality. I've realized I can't continue in a relationship where I feel like I'm always the one reaching out and trying. I care about you, but I need reciprocity that I'm not getting. I'm going to take some space to think about what I need. If you want to talk about this, I'm open to that. This communication accomplishes several things. It states your reality without blame. It expresses your need without demand. It creates space without ultimatum. And it offers an opening without pressure. After delivering soft contact, you actually step back. This isn't a test. This isn't you waiting by the phone hoping they'll reach out. This is you genuinely creating space for yourself to think about what you need, and creating space for them to feel your absence and decide if they want to fight for you. The stepping back has to be real, not performed. The avoidant will sense if you're pretending to be gone while actually monitoring their every move. The space only works if it's authentic space where you're actually tending to your own life and genuinely detaching from the outcome of whether they respond. If the avoidant reaches out during the space, and their reaching out is low effort or breadcrumbing, soft contact means not accepting crumbs, while also not attacking them for offering crumbs. It might sound like, I appreciate you reaching out. I meant what I said about needing real reciprocity, not just occasional contact when it's convenient for you. I'm still taking space, but I genuinely hope you're doing well. This response acknowledges their effort, without accepting insufficient effort, maintains your boundary without punishing them, keeps the door open without walking back through it. You're training them that reaching out half-heartedly won't bring you back, but you're doing it gently enough that you're not triggering their defenses. If the avoidant reaches out wanting to talk, to try, to work on things, soft contact means being receptive without being desperate. It means having a conversation about what would need to be different while acknowledging their fear. It might sound like, I appreciate you wanting to talk about this. I know vulnerability is hard for you, and I respect that you're here trying. For me to feel okay continuing, I need to see consistent effort, not perfection, just real trying. Can you talk to me about what you're willing to work on? This creates space for them to show up while being clear about your needs, honors their difficulty with vulnerability while not letting difficulty be an excuse for inaction. Why soft contact sometimes works. Soft contact works with some avoidance because it removes the pressure that triggers their defenses while still creating consequence. When you step back after soft contact, the avoidant feels your absence without feeling attacked. They can sit with the potential loss without having to defend against your intensity. The space allows their own feelings to surface because they're not using all their energy defending themselves from your feelings. For some avoidants, it's only in this unpressured space that they can recognize how much you matter and access any motivation to fight for you. Soft contact also works because it respects the avoidant's need to process internally while still honoring your need for change. The avoidant can't process emotions in real time during confrontation. They need space to feel their feelings, understand what they're experiencing, and decide what they want to do. Soft contact gives them that space while making clear that the relationship can't continue as it was. You're not waiting indefinitely, but you're also not forcing an immediate decision they're incapable of making. The balance sometimes allows them to move toward you when direct pressure would have made that movement impossible. Soft contact can also work because it communicates that you're a secure person who can express needs without attacking, who can create boundaries without ultimatums, who can honor your own worth without destroying theirs. Avoidants are often attracted to secure people because secure people create safety. If you can implement soft contact from a genuinely secure place, not as manipulation but as authentic expression of your reality with compassion for theirs, some avoidants will recognize they're about to lose someone rare. The way you communicate might actually increase your value in their eyes because you're demonstrating emotional maturity that's different from the anxious patterns they typically encounter. For avoidants who are on the edge of change, who are already questioning their patterns, who have been considering therapy or personal growth, soft contact can be the catalyst that tips them toward action. The combination of consequence without pressure, space without abandonment, clarity without attack, it can create the conditions where they finally decide to face their fear and do the work required to show up differently. They won't fight for you in traditional ways, but they might fight for themselves by getting help, doing therapy, working on their patterns. And that internal fight can eventually translate into them being able to fight for the relationship. Why soft contact often doesn't work. It's crucial to understand that soft contact often doesn't work, not because you implemented it wrong, but because the avoidant simply isn't capable of fighting for you regardless of how you communicate. Many avoidants are so deeply wounded, so defended, so terrified of vulnerability that no approach will reach them. They're not ready to change. They're not willing to face their fear. They'd rather lose you than do the work required to keep you. And that's not a reflection on you or your worth or whether you mattered to them. It's a reflection of the depth of their wounding and their current capacity for growth. Soft contact also doesn't work when the avoidant is comfortable losing you. Some avoidants genuinely don't care enough about the specific relationship to fight for it. You might be someone they liked but never deeply attached to. The relationship might have been convenient, but not important enough to motivate change. Or they might be so avoidant that no relationship feels worth the discomfort of vulnerability. In these cases, soft contact will result in them accepting you're stepping back with relief rather than with any motivation to fight. They'll appreciate that you made the ending easy by not being dramatic, but they won't be motivated to prevent the ending. Soft contact fails when the avoidant is already done but hasn't communicated it. Some avoidants have mentally exited the relationship long before you implement soft contact. They've been distant because they're gone internally, not because they're struggling with feelings for you. In these cases, your soft contact will be met with nothing, because there's nothing there to activate. They're not conflicted, they're just done and haven't had the courage to explicitly end things. Your stepping back does the work of ending that they were avoiding doing themselves. Soft contact also doesn't work when the avoidance pattern is completely rigid and unchanging. Some avoidants have been operating the same way for decades. They've lost every important relationship to their avoidance. They've seen the pattern play out repeatedly. And they still don't change. These avoidants aren't on the edge of growth. They're deeply entrenched in their patterns, and nothing you do or don't do will change that. They require rock bottom, usually multiple times, and even then, many never change. Your soft contact might be perfect in its execution, but it can't penetrate defenses that rigid. What to do when the avoidant doesn't fight? When you implement soft contact and the avoidant doesn't fight for you, doesn't reach out during the space, doesn't show any indication of trying, you have to accept the information you're being given. The avoidant is showing you through their inaction that they're either not capable or not willing to do what would be required to keep you. This isn't about you not mattering. The avoidant might love you deeply and still not fight for you because their fear is stronger than their love. But regardless of the reason, you have to honor the information their behavior is providing. Accepting non-fighting doesn't mean immediately closing every door forever. It means recognizing that the relationship as it exists isn't viable, and you can't stay in it hoping they'll change. It means genuinely moving forward with your life, not as performance, but as authentic redirection of your energy toward your own healing and growth. It means understanding that if the avoidant ever does their work and reaches out in the future, you can make a decision then about whether you're still available and interested. But you can't wait for that possibility. You have to move forward as if it won't happen. Part of accepting non-fighting is grieving what you hope for versus what was actually possible. You have to grieve the relationship you wanted with the person you thought they were or could become. You have to grieve the loss of potential, of the future you imagined, of the partnership you were trying to build. This grief is real and important. The avoidant's inability to fight for you isn't a small thing. It's a significant loss that deserves to be mourned fully so you can eventually move through it. Accepting non-fighting also means examining what made you willing to stay with someone who couldn't fight for you in the first place. The avoidant has attachment wounds, yes, but staying with someone who consistently shows you they can't show up requires examining your own attachment patterns. Are you anxiously attached? Do you have wounds around feeling unworthy that made you willing to accept someone's inability to fight for you as something you deserved? Did you believe if you were just patient enough, understanding enough, perfect enough, they'd finally fight for you? These questions are crucial because understanding your own patterns helps prevent repeating them. When someone can't fight for you, let them go. The painful truth is that someone who can't fight for you is someone who can't be in healthy relationship with you. Fighting for someone isn't just about grand gestures. It's about being willing to face discomfort for the relationship. It's about prioritizing the partnership when staying comfortable would be easier. It's about showing up even when showing up feels vulnerable and scary. If someone can't do these things, they can't build anything real and lasting with you, regardless of how much they might care about you in their limited way. An avoidant who won't fight for you is telling you through their inaction that their fear is stronger than their desire for you, that their need for comfort is greater than their need for connection with you specifically, that their avoidance is more powerful than their love. This information, as painful as it is to receive, is actually a gift. It's showing you clearly that this person is not capable of meeting your needs, not capable of building what you want to build, not capable of being the partner you deserve. Receiving this information early, before you've invested more years, before you've built more life together, before you've become even more attached, is ultimately a kindness even though it doesn't feel like one. Letting them go doesn't mean you didn't matter. It doesn't mean the relationship was meaningless. It doesn't mean you did anything wrong. It means you encountered someone whose capacity for relationship is limited by their unhealed wounds, and no amount of love or patience or perfect communication from you could expand that capacity. Only they can expand it through their own work, and they've shown you through not fighting that they're either not willing or not able to do that work right now. You have to honor yourself enough to stop fighting for someone who won't fight for you, to stop trying to build a relationship alone, to stop accepting crumbs and calling it love. The avoidant who doesn't fight for you might regret it later. They might do their work eventually and recognize what they lost. They might reach out months or years later wanting another chance. But by then you need to have already moved forward. You can't organize your life around the possibility of an avoidant finally getting their act together. You have to live your life, build your relationships with people who can show up, create partnerships with people who don't need soft contact methods to acknowledge your worth. The avoidance potential is not your responsibility. Their growth is not your project. Your life is not a waiting room for someone else's readiness. Use soft contact if you want to give an avoidant one final opportunity to show up differently. Use it because you need to know you tried everything possible. Use it because it's the communication that might actually reach them if anything can. But implement it while being prepared for it not to work. Implement it while being ready to genuinely move forward when they don't fight for you. Implement it as your final clear communication, not as a manipulation or a test, but as authentic expression of your reality and your worth. And then trust that someone who truly is ready to be your partner, someone who has done their work and is capable of showing up, that person won't need soft contact methods to fight for you. That person will see your value clearly and will fight for you naturally, because losing you would be unacceptable to them. That's the person you're making space for when you finally stop fighting for someone who never fights for you.